This is a show about facing fear, unlocking courage, and taking action.
Courage isn't necessarily a daunting thing.
It's going to give you more purpose. It's going to give you more drive.
It feels like making a courageous decision is going to get you closer to who you aspire to be.
It's knowledge plus faith plus action equals courage.
New evidence comes out, we have to rethink our paradigms, and so we all have to be humble enough to recognize that something will change. But when I think about what my true expertise is and the expectation patients should have from their doctors, is they have up-to-the-minute information.
America's healthcare system is neither healthy, caring, nor a system. This is a quote from Walter Cronkite that I ran into. I'm like, wait a minute, okay. The American healthcare system, neither healthy, caring, nor a system. Wow, we're off to a good start here, America. And I have to caveat this entire episode by saying, rarely do I actually get to bring on the show a genuine friend. And it isn't a knock to the other 200 guests we've had on the show. Like, my guest today and I have known each other since we were kids. He is by far a top 3 rock, scissors, paper player I've ever played, ever competed against. By far. True, facts. I was very worried about that line because I was like, what do you mean top 3? I was the best rock, scissors, paper. And you know where I'm going because there's now other people that have heard this that are going to claim that they are in the first spot when we both know they're not in the first spot. They might be in the second spot, but how is your rock, scissors, paper game? Do you get to pull that out still or no?
Yeah, I mean, I have daughters and it happens all the time. And it actually just happened the other day. I rock, paper, scissors. Cottage cheese is my least favorite food in the world. And I lost rock, paper, scissors to my 13-year-old and had to eat a tablespoon of cottage cheese. This was just this week. So my game is off, Ryan.
How old's your daughter?
She's 13.
Okay. So that's also sad because that's an acknowledgement of how long it's been since we've seen each other and played rock, scissors, paper live. But again, I'm not bringing on Dr. Jonah Essers because he's a buddy and I lost a rock, scissors, paper bet. It's from a distance. I have been impressed and in awe of the work you're doing. And I think and again, I come from brand, right? So when you think of certain words as brands like whistleblower, I think certain people immediately have a negative connotation of that word, and you have others that probably have a positive connotation of that word. To go back to my opening quote, and I should say Jonah is a pediatric gastroenterologist. This is why I wasn't that, because I can't even pronounce the damn thing. Based in the Northwest, and I was in the spirit of the show. I think it's awfully courageous what you're doing, which is just trying to give your patients and their families the absolute best care possible. And when it hasn't happened, you've gone public with it. I've seen stuff on LinkedIn that you're posting about certain behemoth healthcare groups who are not exactly standing up or moving at the speed of care. Talk to me, first of all, maybe you could do a better. We'll move on from rock, scissors, paper. Jonah, can you give the origin story of how you landed here? Your training, why pediatric, why'd you go this route? If you don't mind me sharing.
I was always as a kid, the thing that naturally I was good at was science and math, numbers, and the things where there is a right answer and a wrong answer on a test. That was always sort of my gift, was to be able to get through that stuff. And so I received a lot of praise as a kid, just sort of for being book smart in that way. And so initially, when I first thought about becoming a doctor, it actually was a lot more about the teleologic aspect that it's something that I'm good at. And so maybe I should be a doctor. And then that actually carried me, believe it or not, all the way through college. And, I became really interested in science and math. And then decided to go to medical school, mostly because what also came online was my ability to communicate with others, my ability to connect, and to kind of be able to see the forest from the trees. These were sort of more like my gifts or my superpowers, as opposed to this intense desire necessarily like help people. And the reason I want to start there is just to really take a very brief detour to say how grateful I am for the content that you do. And around the time that I started to become an actual doctor and to become like the boss, it was around the time that you started to provide content around what it really takes to be courageous. And I'll keep this brief, but being able to make that shift from I do this because I'm good at it, to being able to say, well, what is it about me that feels good about this? Like, why, what is my why? And so I just want to thank you actually for your content and your book. It came at the perfect time for me. I think you'd probably meet a lot of adults that haven't quite figured out what their own why is. All of their whys are extrinsic and external. And I think for a lot of people in the medical field in particular, they don't necessarily have the opportunity or the luxury to figure that out. And so what has happened for me over the last decade is that I started to really feel that it's not just that I'm good at math and science. It's not just that I can connect with people. My real why is that I have the honor and the privilege to work with families and to synthesize really tough information, break it down for them, and then go to bat for them. And that truly has become, I really feel this deep sense of honor that people will trust me. And that has become my why over the last decade, which leads me to kind of how I went from, kind of just seeing patients to being a little bit more vocal, which is once I understood what my real why was, like, why do I do this for real? It really became more of this, how can I not take somebody to the mat that will get in the way of science and medicine in a kid who's sick? And so it just crystallized for me that it's not enough to just sort of say, well, the insurance company said, no, we got to do something. And I'm sure we'll get more into this, but it didn't feel fair. It didn't feel right. And really nobody was speaking up about it. And so my voice really came because I actually understood why I was put here to do this. And
Man.
so thank you for the part you played in that, because you really have. You don't know that I'm a little bit of I'm kind of like one of those fanboys who's feeling a little bit nervous to kind of talk to you, even though I've known you for a long time.
Well, this concludes the Courageous Podcast, everybody. It's the shortest episode we've ever had. I'm just fishing for compliments over here.
Yeah.
No, man. Thank you for saying that. And I think, well, in some ways it's very cool to hear that, because I'm an observationalist, right? So we haven't seen each other. It wasn't like we both were home at Thanksgiving, which is what happens from time to time with a couple of Maryland kids on the West Coast, right? They get back east 1.5 times a year at best. And so I'm watching what you're doing from afar, granted you're in the Northwest now. And just to paint the picture here of who Dr. Jonah Essers is, I mean, look, you're not just my buddy. I mean, from an educational standpoint, medical degree from Columbia University, College of Physicians and Surgeons, master's in public health at Harvard University up in Boston. Like, you go through all of that. I'm not saying that defines you, right? But like, not a bad place to study, not a bad place to surround yourself with other humans that are exceptional at what they do. But then you go on your journey, and at some point, like you said, it's not cloudy anymore. It's very clear what your role is. And I'm curious, when those moments happen and you see the system failing a patient or a family, a lot of other doctors would have fear. They'd keep it quiet. They're not going to uproot their reputation. But you've been able to prioritize, in the spirit of service, what's the best possible care that you can provide. It feels like almost you've taken it as an obligation. I know it sounds absurd to even say it like this. No?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think because I'm a data-driven guy and those credentials that you list, that is my upbringing I'm a Western trained physician that is evidence-based. And once you have that locked into your DNA, and that's what 20 years of school does for you, is it kind of locks you into a mode that's really hard to break, for better or for worse. But that training is long enough that it kind of does define some of your practice styles. And for me, everything in my training told me that peer-reviewed evidence is as close to gospel as you can get. Now, the reality is that evidence, new evidence comes out. We have to rethink our paradigms. And so we all have to be humble enough to recognize that something will change. But when I think about what my true expertise is outside of like the touching the patient, talk to families, my expertise and the expectation patients should have from their doctors is they have up to the minute information, that they are practicing at the very forefront of what peer-reviewed evidence would suggest. And the challenge is that payers do not practice at the edge of what modern medicine understands. Now, you could argue that that's not their job, but if it's not their job, then whose job is it? Then it is our job. And that's where things really started to become vocal for me, is if an insurance company will say no to me, then the next logical question is show me the data why no. Show me the data. And insurance companies will show me data from 15, 20 years ago. And that's not up to the minute. And that's literally my job, is to know that. And so we've put doctors kind of lower on that in the hierarchy in terms of litigating what the right decision is, because the right decision is ultimately what gets paid for in a capitalist market like the US. And so then the toddler in me literally goes, it's not fair. It's not fair, right? And that hence my journey into social media, because if you look at every one of my posts, my science is correct, but a lot of it comes from this sort of like toddler, sort of like, this isn't fair.
One of the things that come to mind when I was writing my book and like realized there's a big difference between people who say they have values and people who actually live their values, right? Like, it's not just lobby wall art. It's like these people are living them. I was studying, and you triggered me in a good way, by the way. I have to be careful with that word triggered, but the differences between fairness and justice. And I had a creative department in a subjective business of advertising. There's probably like 15, 16 people that were in the creative department. I remember asking everyone, like, which one of these is you? And I think it was split down the middle on who chose fairness and who chose justice. What do you think the difference is between the two?
Ooh, gosh, I love you, man. That's a really good question. I think with a gun to my head, I would say that it's probably not fairness. It's probably closer to justice. And I think the reason for that is that there are a lot of things that are not fair that we should all accept. And, you and I probably talk to our kids all the time. Actually, my wife and I talk about this all the time. It's not fair that she has to do more, like, let's just say, for example, dishes, because I'm out of the house 12 hours a day. But there is a justice around sitting down and saying, well, how else can I make you whole in a different way? Like, it isn't fair that you didn't sign up for more dishes, but let's make this just, right? And so I think that's something I'm going to chew on after this call, which is sort of like, it's closer to justice, which is you have a sick child. There's science to tell you what to do. And the just thing to do is to make sure they get it in spite of the loss of your profits to your shareholders.
My sense is...
What do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, I like where you're going with this. And let's agree that life is a bit like the Plinko game on Price is Right. And so anyone under the age of 25 that's like, what the hell? Google Plinko, Price is Right. And it's like, it's this little disc that's just sort of dropping, and you don't know if it's going left or if it's going right. And like life is kind of like that. At any moment, it could throw you left, it could throw you right, it could throw you all the way to the right. And coming from a very subjective universe like creativity, where data, especially growing up, wasn't the same. Like someone might like something, someone might not like something. I had my old mentor, Ron Berger, on the podcast a few weeks ago, and he's like, look, sometimes it's just hard to get the best work out of the shop. And it was subjective. And so I'm like, wow, in that universe, the main difference between fairness and justice were people that had fairness as a value just hadn't gotten screwed over. Right?
Yeah.
And they're like, I have fairness as a value, but they haven't been screwed over. And justice comes to play where you're like, I thought something, we had an agreement. We had an unwritten, unspoken rule on what was fair. And that I was wronged. And I think if that wrong you continue to get wronged and wronged and wronged, you can see how people get angry. And again, certain people, in my old world, your idea doesn't get picked. You don't know why. You're like, that's not fairness. This is justice. And you see people's personalities change. I want to read one of your posts on LinkedIn. Yep, we're doing it. We're going.
Yeah,
there.
let's do it. All right.
Let's do it. So, and before I read this, let me make this real clear. Any name, I'm not going to read a little name, but I will read the company. And second, if anything ever happens to my kids, knock on wood, you are absolutely my doctor. Like, you are my kids' doctors. I'm coming. We're flying straight to you. I'm sure you can help me figure out the system. But all right, this is 1 month ago, and there's a video to go with it. But you can go look up Dr. Jonah Essers on LinkedIn, and you said certain name and United Health Group, you are breaking the law by not providing me criteria for my patient. Shame on you. And then you list a bunch of other names. United Healthcare has this new tool in their playbook to use denial criteria that don't exist online. I have never heard of Interqual, but they're making decisions on children that are harmful and likely illegal. What do we do? Certain name, insert name, was unable to provide these to me in writing or online. Is this a scam? I'm sorry. Is this a scam? Probably the scam should be the emphasis up. There's a video. There's a whole slew of people that have liked this and reposted this. And again, what I can see, this is from a month ago. And then, what a surprise, the most relevant first response in the comments is you, Jonah, going, I want to thank the executive response team at United Health Group for turning this serious violation into an approval for my patient. A few takeaways. And then you list some of the takeaways and you thank all the people that you need to thank. And it's like, one, holy shit, like, I don't know if you're a swimmer now or on a soccer team at your work, meaning are you an individual player or a team? But when you work with other people in a group and has anyone been like, Jonah, what are you doing? You're messing with our brand here. Like, hey, Jonah, like, chill it out. Like, has anybody come up to you from the group and be like, what are you doing?
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack there, but just to keep it brief, two separate insurance companies reached out to my organization, okay, and to the chief medical officer of my organization. They didn't come to me to discuss the patient. They came to the CMO to say, why do you have like some version of a rogue employee posting about this stuff? Can you please find a way to have him stop posting? And to my CMO's credit, and this to any leader out there, I would say, our chief medical officer, really exemplified what a true leader is, which is that she met with me, she gathered information, she found out that my real purpose was to provide the A+ medical care to my patient. She verified that I was not breaking any HIPAA, that there's no privacy violations or no laws being broken. And then she said to me, Jonah, you have my support. And I think what you're doing is fantastic. And so I did actually have a couple moments where I thought that I would be hurting somebody else's brand. I did reach out to an employment attorney to find out what is, considered public discourse. And, being on the internet is public discourse. When you work for a private company, however, that is not the government, there is potentially a moment where somebody might say to you, this is not good for our brand and we need you to stop, or you need to find another job. I fortunately have the type of leadership that understood that this was about patient care. So yes. And then the other thing I want to just as a tangent say is that there is a breast surgeon, Dr. Elizabeth Potter in Austin, Texas, who also posted to United Health about being called out of the operating room on her patient. This went viral, way more viral than anything I've done. And she is potentially going to be sued by United Health Group for, her posts. And so this has become, I don't want to use hyperbole, but it's become, from a career perspective, potentially dangerous to speak out loud. But at the end of the day, the science, if you lead with science, I just see that as being significantly more bomb-proof than leading with slander and, just a tantrum, essentially.
I mean, where I always was hoping this episode would go, because I think if you even go up to 30,000 feet, right? I think, look, at the 10,000 foot level, it's wild what you're doing. It is courageous. It is for the right reasons. You have your priorities straight on who this is for. And it's like, but you can understand why many people, even if they don't consciously think about it as fear, it's fear, right? You have a wife. I know who the chief executive officer is in my family. If I get fired, I'm going to hear about it from the main boss. Do you think she wants to move to like anywhere else other than San Diego? I've done a survey of one. The answer is no, right? So yeah, you could see why people don't go there. But when your why is so clear, what I loved about this story is I hadn't seen it that much, this tactic that's clearly working. I was very curious to hear, how the company, do they back the science? But then, like I said, at the highest level, this is about leadership. One of the reasons that I pivoted in my career was I felt I was too far down the conveyor belt where I could make an impact the way I wanted to for a business. Like, I still fully believe in the power of courageous ideas, but good luck selling a courageous idea if you don't have a courageous leader. And our business got much wider at that moment. The story that you just shared further affirms that. Like, you have a leader at the top who is brave, and it's mirroring, right? You gave them the context. They understood your why. They're like, the science is there. That's the only thing I do wonder. It's kind of like, yeah, the science is there, but really the number one is to have the clarity to go in the spirit of service, the best possible service. That, to me, that is the why. Do you have your why crystallized? We could rattle it off, or?
Yeah, the why, absolutely, because and I had to crystallize that once I realized that these posts were actually being seen by pretty much everybody, like in the medical industrial complex, between recruiters and insurance companies and CMOs and everything, that I had to crystallize that why. And really that why is the best patient outcomes for children. Period. That's it. And it's such a, like everything else in life that is so good, it's usually elegantly simple. That's it.
Yeah. And we're kind of back to the fairness, justice, right? Like, keep them in the fairness lane as long as you can, right?
Yeah. No, that's right. And then there's like, let's call that the primary why. And then there's a couple second, I wouldn't maybe say call them whys. They're more like, well, maybe you can help me with this part, but here's the data. For every single post I have done, I have gotten an overturn to the thing that I wanted, which is, I think, doesn't speak to me. I think it speaks to the science, right? But the key here is that it is more efficient than going through the prior authorization route, the appeal route. It is quicker, right? And if we think about a child who's either going to have to get admitted to the hospital because they're kind of circling the drain, or they can get a drug that might be disease modifying. If my choice is, well, send it in the mail and wait 45 days to hear back, which is what one insurance company has told me, or I can, call out the CMO of that organization and then have their executive response team call me within 12 hours, and then somebody at the top pushes the accept button. That actually goes back to the primary why, which of excellent patient care. But part of the why to do posts is that it is quicker, and it is 100.0% effective, which is nuts. I mean, it definitely tells me that my science is correct. It definitely tells me that my posts are effective.
It's a system.
But,
it's not the science.
Yeah, it's not right. Exactly. And the system that has been put in place by all of these, especially by the pharmacy benefit managers, the PBMs, the system is meant to put roadblocks in the way. It's meant to, because everybody has their own bucket of money. And like a pharmacy benefit manager is hired by an insurance company to protect the medicine bucket of money. So for them, it's not about the medicine, it's about the bucket of money that is allocated for medicine. Their why is to save money on medicine. That, to me, is the justice. That's the injustice of it all, right?
Right. Well,
Yeah.
they're called insurance companies. They're not called insurance care companies. I mean, right? There's
Right.
if that's not there should be, so this is a slippery slope, right? Because there's part of me that goes and says, yeah, I meant what I said. Like, if something is going on with my kids, I know you're going to go to bat for them. And this country is a monkey see, monkey do culture. It's not monkey hear, monkey do. Although I hope you're listening and enjoying this podcast, folks. The Courageous Podcast, brought to you by, I hope, but it's monkey see, monkey do. So when people see, right, there's going to be other doctors that see this, and you might short circuit them the right way, where they're like, wait a minute, this is messed up. Like, why are we waiting 40 days? Or guess what? I can see this too. The pain of a doctor is what? I have too many patients to see. I'm just trying to keep my head over water. I'm exhausted. And then somebody comes into my office and says, have you seen what this doctor's doing? Did you see what this doctor's doing here? He actually went and put this in social media, and looks like it got handled on the first day. And now has another doctor come to you and be like, hey, calm down, slow down. Like, have you heard from any other doctors?
I've heard, well, first of all, I heard from a lot of other doctors that want to emulate that. So in pediatric gastroenterology, Brad Pasternak down in Phoenix, he is actually the academician who's doing this and published a paper on it recently. We kind of have this little text message group of a bunch of people that are kind of a pediatric gastroenterologist that want to do this. I heard from an allergist that said, I'm too old for social media. Can you help me figure it out? Right. So I have not yet heard from any physician that has told me to slow down. I have heard from attorney friends of mine who were like, hey, Jonah, I love you. Like, just so you know, make sure you dot your I's and cross your T's and don't commit any don't break any laws. But I have yet to, and I think that's the other thing is that I have heard no negative feedback from anyone other than an insurance company.
Yeah, it feels like it's the system, it feels like it's the system that needs repairing, right? And again, it's the Cronkite quote. I'm going to come back to it. America's healthcare system is neither healthy, caring, nor a system. And here you are recognizing that, championing that. Do you see a future where you basically are, like, whether you meant it or not, like, because your why was to give the best possible care, and now along the way, your Ocean's 11 is sort of coming together here of other pediatric doctors and that are going, yeah, this is kind of messed up. The system is too slow. Where does this go? Like, if you follow this thread over the next, if we like took the old Berman time machine 1,000 days from now, got to get it out of the garage. Where are we?
There's a few different battlefields that I think might go in different ways. So I think you're going to start to see, just like kind of what's happening with Dr. Potter in Austin. I think the battlefield with insurance companies, there might be some threats of more lawsuits, which can be a break that might stem the tide. So I could imagine there being a build of doctors that come to social media, but some guardrails around that. And maybe some of them are good, meaning nobody should be slandering and nobody should be breaking HIPAA, which is the privacy laws. But it is going to give some people pause, like the way a non-compete clause in a contract kind of says, like, it's a leash a little bit, right? So I think in that space, I could imagine there being some legal stuff that comes out of this. Not saying they're going to win anything, but it will scare some people off. The second battlefield is pharmacy benefit managers, PBMs. Everybody is on to them. I mean, if you look across social media, but across, news reports, there are horror stories of people that are having bad outcomes because PBMs are holding things up. And my guess is that PBMs are going to have to change the model by which they protect the medicine bucket of money. So that 1,000 days out now, I see that dam bursting, and I think insurance companies are going to have to rejigger how they manage that pot of money. So I think that the way we have PBMs now is going to change. And I think finally, that there will be a very robust online presence of physicians that will be calling out, real violations in access to care.
So I guess this is my courageous moment of the episode. Yeah, because I think you said, like, when I think about the criteria, right? You've got the science side when you call somebody out, and I know you said, like, you're trying not to slander anybody. Like, that's not really a great tool, but there has to be some level of tension. Like, I mean, yeah, like the post I read, there's still a shame on you in there. I mean, it's not slander, but that certainly isn't like, dear United Healthcare, I cordially warn you to, like, where's the line on that dial up?
Yeah, right. So for me, the reason that I push that line is because of the bet that insurance companies take. You had alluded to it a few minutes ago. Their big bet is that we're just too stinking busy to really go past. I think about like a video game. Eventually, trying to get to the den master, at the top where you get him down like at level 10, right? Their bet is you're going to get to level 3 and get eaten by a bunch of Martians, right? At some point, right? And so the reason that I push that line is I got to get to the den master, right? Otherwise, you don't win the game, right? So for me, that line, and then the other thing is because I have crystallized my why, and now I'm going to use the word justice because I think it makes so much sense. I know my why. I see the injustice. How can you not be angry? And that's when I started doing videos, because I really wanted people to see authentic anger. Whereas how many people put their caps on and they type things with exclamation marks and you're like, what are you doing, right? And I want people to see the bags under my eyes. I want them to see my exhaustion. And that is actually real, right? And so for me, the line is as long as I'm as long as I'm authentically expressing my emotions, and then it's not slander and it's not privacy violation, and I'm not calling out certain names in particular, to me, that line is there really is no limit to that. I mean, for example, like we could take it to the extreme. I could imagine myself crying one day on a call because I'm so upset. I could imagine, using a 4-letter word potentially. I probably won't, but I mean, I'm saying like that line I think is very, I don't think I've reached that line yet. I think, and you're the creative guy, there's probably a limit though, after which some point people are like, listen, I can't listen to this guy anymore. And so I'm acutely aware of the fact that as a,
you nailed it though. Like I think what makes it different Well, first of all, if you step back and unemotionally look at it, right, you're still 100%, right? It's not about the 100%, right? It's about one every single time, one for one, singles, doubles, whatever you want to call it. So the fact that it's working, of course, and again, it's not about the aggregate. It's like it works and it speeds up the process, and it's for the greater good of the patient, right, and the family. I think why this feels different to me. One, yes, there is a giant on the other side, a $1 trillion. There's a lot of commas in the giant that kind of are like, we can squash you. And now, right here is a place where I think social media gets a really bad rap where you're using it for good. I love that. Two, I think when you see real frustration, and this is sort of like maybe sad reality, you'd expect that level of emotion from a parent, right? You haven't really seen it from the treating doctor, the treating physician, right? That to me is what makes this unique. And it's also one of the reasons why I was like, yeah, guys, pay attention, like Columbia, Harvard, like you've done the work to get here. And again, you have slowed it down enough where you're like, my why is to provide the best possible care possible, even with the injustices that come. I know we got to wrap here a little bit here, but like, do you still have fear of getting a call from the boss, an email, a knock on the door? Like, is there any fear that you still, and again, fear, false evidence appearing real, but like, do you still play that out in your head? Like, at some point, someone might come knocking and being like, Jonah, you've crossed the line.
I don't have any fear when it comes to like my current employer or my peer group of physicians and pharmacists and nurses. The fear I have is the what you referred to as kind of being squashed, is that it's less about whether I'm right or wrong, or whether I'm, parroting the just comment or not. The amount of money that could be thrown at a lawsuit, just, the fear of breaking my family and, putting me essentially in an untenable financial position to raise a family. I do have some legitimate fear. I think if I was in a later phase of life where my kids were grown and I was, my house was paid off, that sort of thing, maybe not so much, but there's some realities, which is I am vulnerable in that I'm a hardworking person with bills to pay and kids to raise. And that's the part that at the end of the day, yes, my why in my occupation is what we've talked about, but my family does come before my occupation. And that's the part that feels a little scary, to be honest.
My hope of where all of this goes, and just to be clear, this is like not something I was like, I'm going to write down and take the episode to here, right? But like, I brought up the time machine idea. I think it's pretty awesome to see you so focused on providing the best possible care and being a good father, husband, all the things that you should be. I could see a day where you keep going, and I'm like, I can't wait for you to be hired by one of these healthcare systems, because like I see a book, I see consulting on helping the insurance company figure out how they can move at the speed that the care is actually needed. Is there a way I could see it? Maybe it's not 3 years away. Maybe it's not a year away. Maybe there's a conference. That's how it starts. But I think there's more. I could see more in this space, and it's awesome.
Thanks, man. Thank you. And I think one of the things that, just to kind of feed back a little bit on what you said, I agree with you. I also think that as somebody who is recovering from being addicted to praise and sort of like, wow, you're so good at something, my path is to organically stay true to sort of my why, thanks to, content like yours. And then if that's where it goes, it's kind of like I didn't imagine myself ever being on LinkedIn until 5 years ago. And that was the means to the end. And at the end of the day, I agree with you that certainly is a reasonable path. But for right now, I have to stay internal, right? Otherwise, I'll personally lose my bearing. And so at this point, I'm using my social media for my patients. Where it goes next, hey, maybe I'll hire you as a career coach one day, and we can talk about that when our kids are out of the house, and we can sit down. Maybe I'll come down to San Diego, and we can you can help me.
Hey, I don't think you need my help. If you said in the spirit of like, wait, what praise did you get for rock scissors paper, or here's the same guy that dropped out of our fantasy football league. You've made good choices. You've doubled down on where you're best, right? Do it your best. Pay for the rest. But honestly, I love that. I love that it just was very, again, in some ways, the universe decided that some of your content ended up in my LinkedIn feed. And I'm like, holy shit, like Jonah is calling out, like this is, and then you see it again and you're like, I got to reach out to Jonah. Like I got to find the right time and the right way to reach out to say, like, you are so needed, and keep doing what you're doing, and you're not alone, and welcome to the Courage community, and you're one of us, and I'm excited to hear how your Ocean's 11 continues to build. Jonah, thanks, brother. Keep doing what you're doing.
You're the best, man.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Courageous Podcast. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts so more people can find us. See you again next week.